Welcome back to Toilets and Titles. My name is Justin Stevens, and I'm back with another Toilets and Titles episode. You'll notice I have with me today a little somebody that doesn't quite look like Coach Sheps. I've got George with me tonight, stepping in and helping us out with the main show. Appreciate you coming on, George. How's it going tonight?
Doing absolutely fantastic. Unlike my Dolphins, when I'm needed to show up, I show up on time, ready to go, ready to get the job done. I don't choke. Definitely not Coach Sheps. I think I got the better beard, but Sheps definitely has the better head of hair. I give that man better head of hair than I got. So
Fair enough. Fair enough. Guys, you can find us at JustinFF _ at George Reed FF, and of course the entire team at Toilets and Titles. We really appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. This is our episode 157, as you can see by the scroll at the bottom. Week number 15 of the NFL season here, and it's going to be another review preview type show with a fantasy twist. We primarily do fantasy football in this show, but George, what are some of the shows that you're involved with that you want to talk about real quick?
So the two main ones I do one with you every Friday night when I'm in town and available, or when you're in town and available. But we mostly do it every Friday night. That's TGIF. This guy is fragile. Basically, we collect the news all week long, and then we go over the injuries for the players that they were sustained either during the games or during practice throughout the week. This way you know what you're looking at going into who you can count on and who you can't. And then Sunday morning with the Sunday morning blitz with Dirty Jobs Mike, Homeless Jason, Joe and Jeff from the DFS show. And we take your start, sit, trade questions and soy sauce bets and all types of other nonsense that we can get squeezed into a good 2-hour show.
That's only 2 of the 9 shows that we have on every week. Mondays goes out to the Patreon only supporters. So we thank you very much. Patreon.com/Toilets and Titles. Tuesdays right here, the flagship show, followed by H2H, which is IDP with Nino, Jared, and Russ. Finally remembered Russ this time. You're starting to stick in my head now, so you'll never leave. Wednesday mornings, DUD Down Under Dynasty at 6:30 in the morning with Matt and Ben. Wednesday nights, Joe Knows, his preview and review show, and then immediately following that, T to T After Dark at 10:30. Make sure the kids are tucked away for that one. That is our gambling episode where the language gets a little dicey. And then followed by our TGIF on Fridays, we have NCAA and Devi Talk. The P2P guys, Nino and Jared, come back and hit you with another episode. This one, again, college football and Devi Talk. Saturday nights, 9 p.m., a dash of Dynasty, or a dash of DFS. I always call it a dash of Dynasty, a dash of DFS with Mike and Joe. You can catch out all those episodes and everything else that we do, articles that we have running, and so much more at our website, toiletsandtitles.com. You'll also notice on the website an affiliate. Click on that affiliate if you're going to buy any sports gear in the upcoming months, especially for Christmas here and my birthday in March. The affiliate is for fanatics.com. You'll help out the show.
My birthday, Justin, was in November, but I don't want the people to think that it's still too late to buy me something. It's not. So I do accept belated Christmas gifts and belated birthday gifts. So if you wanted to buy me something, go to the website, click the link for Fanatics. You help us out, and hey, you can buy me something. Listen, you could buy me a Patriots Tom Brady jersey. I don't care.
You'll use it for the charity.
Yep. Or fire. I got a fire pit out back. I can use it as a starter.
Yeah, you might get a few TikTok videos that way. All right, so we talked about our TGIF show, our Friday night show that you and I do. Dr. George and Nurse Justin bring you the updates for the week. We do have some major injuries and some hopefully not so major injuries from this past week's games that could potentially affect your fantasy football production this week. So we have first off, Kyler Murray. That one was ugly, man. Torn ACL. Looks like his season's done. I mean, any faith at all in Colt McCoy?
Not really. Like in a two quarterback league or super flex league, like maybe I would trust Colt McCoy in that situation. But you're talking, it would have to be a deep two quarterback league or flex league in order for me to trust Colt McCoy. Um, you're talking the playoffs now, so I'm not going out and getting a Colt McCoy for a single quarterback league. That just will not happen. There should be other quarterbacks who you can stream week to week to fill in those gaps. And if you're not sure who you should pick up, ask us on the Sunday Morning Blitz, and we'll be more than happy to help you.
Yep. Or ask throughout the week as well on all the other shows because we understand waivers don't just run on Sunday mornings. But Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett, Tyler Huntley, all three of them went down with a concussion. Some of them looked uglier than others, but as we already know, and as we've already talked about several times on TGIF, the looks of what concussions look like on the field really pays next to no mind as far as comparison to how long they're actually going to be out. But Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett, Tyler Huntley, we just have to kind of wait and see on that, and we will definitely have a better update for you on Friday.
So just throwing this out there, like as we've seen with most concussions last year, after 1 week, these guys were coming back. It seems more and more so this year that if you suffer a concussion in the game, you're probably missing the next game. So for waiver wire purposes, if you're relying on Russell Wilson, I hope the guys in the playoffs are relying on Kenny Pickett. But I mean, I'm sure there's scenarios where there's a league where you had to rely on Kenny Pickett and you made the playoffs with him as your quarterback. I know I relied on Tyler Huntley a lot last week. Burned me in a couple of leagues, helped me, or didn't burn me in a couple of leagues. But I'll be looking for a Huntley replacement this week. So just not expect any of those guys to play. They normally takes this year, ever since they changed the thing because of the Tua incident in week 4, or week 4 or 5, whichever one it was. These guys typically take at least miss 1 week.
Oh, fair enough. Deebo Samuels was the next big injury I had on the list. He's going to be out for probably a few weeks, according to Shanahan, with ankle injury. And then the last one I had on the list, Terrence Steele, the right tackle for the Cowboys, torn ACL. His season's also over. I had that one on the list. We don't typically talk offensive linemen, George, but since I had you on here, there's been a lot of heavy play coming from that fantasy play anyway, coming from that running back core of Zeke and Pollard, with the right tackle going down to a season-ending injury. I was going to ask Coach about this one since he's the big Cowboys fan, but what do you think? Is this going to really affect much of anything?
Well, I believe, and I may be mistaken. No, like this is definitely a question for Coach. I thought the reason you put him on here is because I'm built like a right tackle that could play for the Cowboys. But I thought that I think they're getting their starting left tackle back soon, aren't they? Tyrone Smith or whatever his name is. I believe they're getting him back soon. So this may be an instance where they put him back at left tackle and they take their rookie left tackle that's been, starting in his absence, flip him over to the right side. I think that will be an option. But as far as offensive lines go, like especially for a team that's not the Miami Dolphins, like I am no expert on this one at all.
Fair enough. But that is still some good insight there. Speaking of actually, you know what? I'm going to hold off on the patreon.com for a little bit. I'm just going to kind of push that one off for a second. I want to talk about the Christmas Eve squares we've got going on, or rather, should I say what Coach has going on? And you can DM Coach at Coach Sheps _ wait, no, it's just at Coach Sheps. He doesn't have an underscore. Everybody has an underscore, but he doesn't have an underscore.
No, you're the only one with the underscore, Justin. You had to be different.
Oh, I thought everybody had an underscore. Oh well, there's a lot of Justin FFs out there. So there's only one with an underscore, where the underscore is at. So anyway, at Coach Sheps, get you some $10 Christmas Eve squares. That's for the Cowboys game on Christmas Eve. This time he's working it a little different. He's not doing a payout at the end of each of the quarters. He's doing a payout every single time the points change. So if the points change, if there's 20 scores made in that game, there's going to be payouts to 20 different people. It's $10 a square. And I believe he said it's $50 per payout because we're doing up to 20 payouts. The last payout gets all the money, or the 20th payout, whichever comes first. Um, anyhow, that's our Christmas Eve squares we're trying to push. That's at Coach Sheps. Let's see. Games of the week. I want to do the games of the week next.
Before we get to the games of the week, did you want to talk a little bit about St. Jude's? And after that I'll read our 5-star Apple review.
Sure. Why not?
We missed some of that.
Yep. Nope, that's fine. I was trying to do something a little bit different today without Coach, but
my bad.
That's my fault. I should have let you know. I totally spaced it. I am going to do the Patreon a little bit later, but the St. Jude's thing that George was talking about, we are donating to. Coach is donating $2 on behalf of Toilets and Titles to St. Jude's Children's Hospital for every new subscriber we have between now and Christmas. And that's going by the number. So we really appreciate those of you that have asked if you can unsubscribe and then subscribe back. Doesn't quite work that way. That actually might hurt our algorithm more than it helps. I'm not really sure. But anyhow, we want to try to get up the total number up by Christmas. So so far we're actually doing pretty well here. It's up to $44. That would be
22.
22 new subscribers just since December 1st. So we greatly appreciate that. And it's actually more than that because our boy Jason, your partner in crime over at Break from the Grind, along with I believe Rich, maybe,
Yep.
they are also both matching that. So that's 3 times the amount. So so we're doing pretty well with that. We would like to get the goal or get the total donation amount on the Toilets to Title side up to $100 so we can break the other 2 guys of $100 as well. It would be a nice donation. Let's see. What else do we got here, George? We have the 5-star review. You want to read that 5-star review for me?
Sure. If you go on to Toilets Titles on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. There is a chance that we will actually read your review live on the air. This one comes from B Willis _24. And I believe that's where you're always getting the underscores from. It's from our the people who are leaving our reviews. If you have an underscore, it's almost mandatory you leave us a review.
In other words, only the cool people.
Correct. Firecast. These guys are fired and dedicated to helping you win. They won me a championship last year alone and helping me into the playoffs again this year. Again, that's from Bill B Wills _24. We appreciate that, Mr. Wills. It is greatly appreciated.
Now, also, Mr. Wills, I went on Twitter to try to see if that was a Twitter handle at bwills _24. Unfortunately, it is not. I have no idea who you are. I'm just going to be honest with you. I need you to shoot me a message, whether it be respond right here on this show in the comments, and I'll check it out later in case you missed it live, or send us an email, toiletstotitles@gmail.com. But I did have this little gift here that I was going to give to the next Apple 5-star review. It's a CD Lamb rookie card. So I will get that out to you just as soon as I get your mailing info. And next we have the Frankensteak playoff update. I'm kind of excited to give this one each week because it's fun to see how it all plays out and how the different strategies come together. And this was a whole nother set of strategies here. For those of you that don't know, our Frankensteak playoff, it's our listener league. Primarily, most of the people in the league are listeners, and then everybody, all the guys that are on the team, typically play as well. But we do things a lot different. There are a lot of different things about this league that you will not find in any other league, and this week was no different. Going from the first round of the playoffs to the second round, the highest remaining seed in the tournament gets to choose who their opponent is going to be in the third round. So we just finished up the second round. We're down to our Elite Eight. we should call it the Erie 8 since it is a monster theme.
Yeah, Erie 8 sounds good. That's a good one.
Yeah, we're down to the Erie 8, and all 8 of these guys I can confirm are very eerie. Um, yeah. Anyway, the Erie 8, number one overall seed from from Fusion FFB, right around the corner. I pointed this way like he was right next to me, but kind of a sister podcast show right around the corner. He's right over there at generally underscore aware. His team name is Demonic Infusion. He had the number one seed and the first bye, so he got to choose his first opponent for this next round playoffs. It's a very interesting strategy here, George. You want to tell him who he chose?
So I honestly was hoping, and I kind of was trying to bait him into choosing the number 2 seed, which would have been Coach Ships. Spoiler alert, he did not choose the number 2 seed. What he ended up doing, though, which is interesting, you would think he would have took the lowest seed possible, being schedule-wise, that would probably be the easiest spot for him to get a win to the next round. But no, he chose the number 3 seed. So at Generally Aware, his team name, as you mentioned, Demonic Infusion, he chose the Barlog. And that I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with this person.
That's Eric. Eric. Eric used to be a writer for us back in the day, and I think he might still be during the regular season. Actually, I haven't seen anything of him yet so far this season, so maybe he's not with us anymore. I'm not really sure. I'll have to check into that though. But either way, definitely still a good friend of the show, and kicking butt in the Frankenstein.
Yeah, so he did good. I mean, right now he's the 3 seed, but he was selected as the first person to go up against the number 1 seed. So you got the 1 seed versus the 3 seed in this round of the playoffs.
And I think what Joshua was doing here was he probably put it into the idea that if I win, I have to face most likely the 2nd or 3rd seed, whichever one wins and doesn't get chosen in the next round, which we'll talk about that in a minute. Actually, I should say it now to set this up. The next round, after this round 3, there's going to be the Fearsome 4 left, and those Fearsome 4, the worst remaining seed gets to choose his opponent in the next round.
Yep.
So my thinking here is I'm thinking maybe Josh, and maybe he's watching. He does watch a lot. And if you're catching this live, maybe he's thinking either way, he's going to have to play either the 2nd or 3rd seed, most likely in the 2nd round. So he took a look at the schedules and he's trying to play matchups. And between the two of them, which one would he rather play this week? Which would he rather play next week? That's kind of what I'm thinking he probably did there. So he could get them both knocked out now, knowing that they're going to choose for him to play the biggest one next week anyway.
It was either that or he was hoping, okay, I'll take out the 3 seed and maybe the 2 seed will get taken out this round.
Which is possible because the 2 seed is at Coach Shep's. He got that second bye and he got to choose next, and he chose the guy that scored the most points in round 1 by quite a bit. He had a monster game, and that is Mephistopheles. We also know him as Uncle Steve here on the show, but he chose Uncle Steve to play in that 2nd round. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. I think that one could be a high-scoring affair. Let's see. At Mama, or not at, it's at is this just FF, but it's Mumra St. Brown got to choose next as the 8 seed in the tournament, and he chose the number 11 seed Demogorgon. And then Dracula at Cruiser 128 was the 9 seed, gets stuck with the last option that's still left out there. So these two are the 2 teams that obviously everybody's scared of because nobody chose to play against either of them. But that number 10 seed is none other than Rich's boy Keegan, the Crypt Creeper. So Rich's boy made it into the 2nd round and Rich didn't. So that's interesting.
I like the fact that the number 9 seed gets to play the 10 seed, because typically the number 9 seed in this scenario would be playing the 3 seed. So I like how, by Joshua taking the number 3 seed off the table, that was kind of caused a domino effect because the number 2 seed, which was the next highest, 12 seed, the 8 seed, which was the next highest, took the 11 seed. So because Joshua went out of order, it left the 9 versus 10.
Right.
It caused a domino effect all the way down. So that was pretty cool.
Also, did you notice that the seeds 4, 5, 6, and 7 did not make it, and then 13 through 20 did not make it. But we had 5 teams in a row that were all right there neck and neck in fantasy points because that was the area where they got in on based on points rather than win-loss record, where they all kind of were clumped together and all made it in there together. So congratulations on them.
The Frankensteak, like you mentioned, this is a league that it's unlike any league you have ever played in. If you want to challenge yourself and you want to play in a league that is just absolutely crazy, that highly values strategy, this is the league for you, because this isn't just a normal you do your draft and do the waiver wire and all that. Like, there is so much going on from week to week that you have to pay attention, and you have to be thinking 2 or 3 steps down the road, because it's never the same. It's there's always something different going on. There's monster cards that give you advantages. And it's absolutely phenomenal.
Yep, absolutely. And many of those guys that we named off our Patreon supporters, it's patreon.com/toilisted You can see down there at the bottom. I'll leave this up and scrolling for a little bit, but those are our different levels that you can log in and support the show, and we'll help you out with any number of these things. So, but anyway, thank you very much to the Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your support. Let's see, we got a comment here, Coach Fry. My offer is still out, Rich. Oh, okay. I forgot about this. So
Yeah.
Coach Fry, Kevin Fry, is challenging Rich. Rich, I don't know if you're off work yet or not, but he's been trying to challenge you all day long in the league chat, and he would like to play him against you, and I can get that set up on my fantasy league as well. He wants to challenge you for the buy-in for next season. So the loser has to pay for the winner's buy-in into the Frankensteak League. So I like that challenge. I feel like other guys should start getting that going in the chat as well.
If my team was even remotely half decent, I would be laying out those challenges. But to be honest, my team this year was hot garbage.
Just challenge another hot garbage team.
I might have to do that. I did beat Jeff this past week. I don't know what that means, but I do know I beat both of the guys on the blitz that I faced this year. I beat Jason and I beat Jeff. So.
And you beat him this week?
Yeah.
Okay, well then that just means that you are now in the next round of the consolation tournament.
Oh, okay.
And the winner of the consolation tournament also gets prizes if you're not a part of the show. So sorry, you're not eligible.
Oh, damn it. Well, it's my wife's team.
Yeah, I did that. I got my son and my wife both in there, and all 3 of us went out in the first round. All right. We got our game of the week this week. So the game of the week, Coach picks a game of the week. I pick a game of the week. We talk about it. At the end of the week, whichever team or however many point differential there is between the 2 teams in your game of the week, that score gets added to our total overall score on the season. This past week, I chose the Vikings at the Lions, and that turned out to be an 11-point difference. Coach chose the Dolphins at the Chargers, which ended up being a 6-point difference. So a 5-point closer game. I am now down by 14 to John. So I need to make a little bit of a comeback here. So I'm going to let you read Coach's game of the week first and kind of see what you think about that one.
All right. So Coach's game of the week this week is on Thursday night. It is the red hot Brock Purdy-led 49ers. They are playing at the Geno Smith-led Seattle Seahawks. And I'll tell you what, when they started the schedule this season and they put it together, bet your bottom dollar they penciled in Brock Purdy versus Geno Smith. 15 Thursday Night Football. That was on the schedule, folks. That was not, just dumb luck. They scheduled this head-to-head matchup of these 2 future Hall of Fame quarterbacks for us for Thursday Night Football.
Yep. Yep, that's gonna be extremely boring. But all right, so it probably won't be, to be quite honest with you. I've really been enjoying the Thursday night games. Seems like it's always something different. This week it was Baker freaking Mayfield, but anyway, yeah, Coach missed because his son had a concert, a band concert tonight. So please, if you would, Coach, tell Emmett I'm sorry I missed it. I really wanted to be there. I was going to try to be there, but somebody had to be here on the show to keep George under control. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a good time.
A little peek behind the scenes here, folks. I am not allowed to do a show by myself. I have to have adult supervision because it will go off the rails.
Yeah, I said I was going to do this show solo, and because with John being out, and George was like, "Oh no, we're not allowed to do that. I can't. We're not allowed to be left alone." And I was like, "George, that's only just you. Everybody else, we'll have the keys, but we can't. You can't do it." Let's see. Seahawks are winning. Is what Shay tweeted. That says. Let's see. And Shay is wrong, according to Coach. All right, I'm going to let them have at it in the chat. And
maybe we can convince them both to do a what's it called shot, a soy sauce shot on this game. I think that's what they should do. Shay, Coach, put your mouth where the soy sauce is.
I see what you did there. My game of the week is the Dolphins at the Bills. That was a one-score game earlier when they played. That's going to be the Saturday night game. That's right. You heard me correct. We do have 3 Saturday games this week. This is that week where college football has kind of a hiatus here for a week, and the NFL decides to take it over. So we have Thursday night. We got all day Saturday, all day Sunday, Monday night. So we have a lot of football this weekend. Dolphins and the Bills, assuming everyone's healthy and everyone's playing, that's a lot of fantasy points right there. So that's the main reason why I chose that one.
That game concerns me, not just as a Dolphins fan, but as the weather. They're supposed to have a really bad storm coming through.
That should keep it even lower than on the score, so that should help me with our game.
Yep. Unless they move it.
What's that?
Unless they move it again, which as a Dolphins fan, please move the game.
You're all bent out of shape about them, the way they were acting with the whole home field advantage thing, but when it helps your team.
Listen, no, it's completely unfair to take a team from Florida and put them in a team in a division that's got 3 teams from the Northeast. That's just not fair.
We're going to try a new segment today. What do you think?
Is that the moves that made us?
Yep. The trades that made us, or the trades that broke us. So here's something a little bit different. This segment here is something that Coach stirred up, and we'll see if this might be a segment we get to bring up every so often from time to time. But this is essentially exactly what it sounds like. What kind of trades did you make this season that kind of helped set your team off or put you way above where you were and that sort of thing? So if you would, go ahead and read Coach's here, and then I'll get to mine. And then we have 3 from Patreon supporters.
Okay. And then after you do yours, though, before we get to the Patreon, I'll give you one that I pulled off in my home league that absolutely helped my team.
Excellent.
All right. So moves that made us. This was coming from Coach Sheps. Picking up Justin Fields when Matthew Stafford was killing me in a 1-quarterback league. He dropped Romeo Doubs for Fields November 9th, which was week 10 of the NFL season. He was 6-3, but had big issues at quarterback. He finished the season real strong at 10-4 and finished up as the number 2 seed overall. So since he picked up Justin Fields, he went 3-1, resolved his quarterback issues, and now he's sitting pretty as the number 2 seed.
Very good. And I should also say that these aren't all trades, obviously, as he just said. That was a waiver pickup as well. So waiver pickups also would add. My big one actually happened before the season even started. It was way early in the season because I don't really trade a lot. I draft a team in the draft, and I usually mostly stand by them. and then I just follow the waiver wire after that. So if I get bit by a guy, usually it's week 8 or 9 before I've made a change on the waiver wire. But for the most part, it usually does me pretty well because I feel like I draft really well most of the time. But let's see. So the trade that I made happened right after we had our draft, probably within a day or two. And this is a redraft, so it was about a week before the season started as well. It's kind of that in between time. But after the draft, um, I had drafted Melvin Gordon as my RB5 or 6. For those of you that don't know, I draft heavy and early with running back in any redraft format. I don't care what it is. Um, Maybe not Superflex, but I don't think I've ever played a redraft Superflex. But I had just missed out on TJ Hawkinson and Dallas Goddard, which were 2 tight ends that I really wanted. After the draft, the guy that drafted Goddard actually had drafted another pretty decent tight end as his tight end too, and he was really weak at running back. So I was able to trade away my RB5 or 6 and Melvin Gordon for his tight end 1 and Goddard. Um, the Goddard what ended up being the tight end 4 in our league when he went down. So he really helped out my season throughout the regular season before he got hurt. Now he's back and healthy and ready to roll for me in my playoff run. Even though in that particular league, I probably still don't really have much of a chance because I'm facing the best team in the league this week. But it was still a nice. I don't think I would have even made the playoffs had I not made that trade. I'll read the first Patreon. Or actually, no, you say you got yours that you want to bring up as well, right?
Yep.
Excellent. Let's do it.
Yep. So I'm kind of like you. I do a very heavy draft of running backs. In our home league this year, we went to Superflex. So my first round pick I made was Josh Allen. They were kind enough to let me get him at the number 4 selection. It was, like I said, home league, first year playing Superflex. So these guys took Najee Harris, Christian McCaffrey, and Jonathan Taylor 1, 2, and 3. Me being a little bit more experienced with Superflex, knowing the value of quarterbacks, I took Josh Allen. I then drafted Nick Chubb, Travis Etienne, and what's his name for the Packers there? Not AJ Dillon, the other one.
Oh, Aaron Jones.
Yes. So I was heavy loaded at quarterback. I drafted Josh Allen. I drafted Deshaun Watson for later on in the playoffs, and I drafted Kirk Cousins. So I had what I figured was 3 really solid quarterbacks, really good at running back, and I had Zach Ertz as my tight end. So, before he went down, solid all across the board at all positions. Well, the one position I was really weak at, and I was really, really relying heavily on Deontay Johnson to at least be a top 24 wide receiver. And I knew I would get boom bust weeks with Gabe Davis, but I figured if I pair Gabe Davis and Josh Allen, those weeks that they hit, it's going to be unbelievable. And those would be the 2 wide receivers that I would roll with. Well, I was struggling all year at the wide receiver position. It was absolutely brutal. I was completely struggling. So I reached out to the guy who drafted Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. And he also had Amon-Ra St. Brown. He had Cooper Kupp. Like he invested heavily in wide receivers, but his quarterbacks, he was expecting a lot out of Aaron Rodgers, wasn't getting it. He also had Jared Goff, who was lighting it up at the beginning of the season, but he wasn't expecting Jared Goff to be able to keep it up. So the trade we ultimately traded was Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, and I sent him Aaron Rodgers as well. So I had Aaron Rodgers and I had Josh Allen, excuse me. So I sent him Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, and Aaron Rodgers. And no, he's a Falcons fan. He's not a Green Bay fan. But he was desperate for a running back, and he wanted what he thought was to be an upgrade in quarterback for Aaron Rodgers. In return, and this is where I believe I crushed it, he sent me James Conner, who was injured at the time, sent me Devontae Adams, who has been absolutely unbelievable this year, and sent me Jared Goff, who, like I said, looking at the rest of my team, it was absolutely loaded with running backs. So I wasn't overly concerned. I had really good running back depth. I had good quarterbacks, great tight end. in our league, if he could go out and give me 20 points a game, I'm happy with that. I don't need something spectacular. So I did that trade, and then like a week later, somebody dropped Kenneth Walker, and I picked Ken Walker up, and I dropped Logan Thomas for him. And that was the week before the starter, Rashard Penny, got injured. Jason, so he was just sitting on waivers for anybody to pick him up. Jason didn't realize he was on waivers. I waited for him to clear waivers, and then once he cleared waivers, I picked him up. And I've been running now. I'm in the playoffs, and my team is absolutely stacked right now. I got Josh Allen, Nick Chubb, ETN, James Cook, and Kenneth Walker, and James Conner at running back. Devontae Adams, Deontay Johnson, and Gabe Davis at wide receiver. I got Dallas Goedert, who got dropped, but I picked him up when he got dropped. He was on IR, so I picked him up, put him on the bench because we don't have an IR spot. And then I got Greg Dulcich at tight end as well. And my quarterbacks, Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson, and Jared Goff. So I'm feeling really good about this team coming in. And I felt good about it beforehand, but being able to get somebody like Ken Walker and being able to add James Conner, Devontae Adams, and Jared Goff to this roster, really giving me that true number one receiver that my team was missing, I feel did wonders for this team.
So this segment went from the trades that made us to George's entire team. So next, as we try to move it right along for the next show,
sorry about that.
We've got Coach Fry, Dustin Hetrick, and Chris Hines. You know what these three have in common, George?
They're all fantastic human beings.
Absolutely. And they're also very loyal Patreon supporters.
Yes,
Again, patreon.com/toilets titles. So Coach Fry here, he sent us one that says that he picked up Geno Smith through waivers before the season started. Was the last place team in a Superflex league in 2021. He tried trading him the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season until realizing he was legit and that his team had a shot at the playoffs. So he made it into the playoffs, and he is the last seed. So he went from last to first, and it looks like the only real change he made was picking up, or not first. He went from last to last place in the playoffs, and it looks like the only real pickup he made was Geno Smith.
Awesome. I seen a thing earlier today with Geno Smith. There's only been 3 quarterbacks this whole year that have had more QB1 weeks than Geno Smith. That's how good Geno Smith has been this year. It's Pat Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Allen. Outside of those 3, nobody has more QB1 weeks than Geno Smith.
Yep, he's had a solid season.
Fantastic season.
Dustin Hetrich, he said that he traded Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Boyd, Alan Lazard, and Cam Akers for T. Higgins, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard. This was a redraft league. Jonathan Taylor was killing him weekly and ended up getting more out of Jacobs and Pollard than the other manager got out of Taylor after the trade was made. So in other words, it sounds like he turned around and flipped Jacobs and Pollard and got even more out of them. So
I'm wondering if one of those trades where the league was like, this is so lopsided. It's not fair. You're giving up Jonathan Taylor for Josh Jacobs and Tony Pollard. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you should never veto trades, because you don't know the outcome of those trades until the season is over.
He said he was 2-7. He ended up 6-8, 1 game out of the playoffs. Oh man, that's heart-wrenching.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Chris Hine, Patreon supporter. He said that he shipped Javonte and Godwin for the 101 and Eckler in the offseason. Got crushed by league mates for the deal. Took Brees with the 101. He finished the season as the number 1 seed, 12-2. Of course, you did. So he, in other words, he traded away Javonte Williams and Chris Godwin and got back essentially Austin Eckler and Brees Hall.
That's a fantastic trade.
Bravo. The moves that broke us, we really only had one, at least one that any of us were willing to admit. And that was Coach Sheps. He's not bashful. He'll tell you. He'll also tell you that he traded CeeDee Lamb and a second for Alvin Kamara and a first. The trade was completed on October 20th, and so week 7 of the NFL season. He said that he was 4-2 before making the move. He won week 7 and was sitting at 5-2. Then Alvin Kamara just fell completely apart, and he ended up the season as the 6th overall seed and 6th make the playoffs with an 8-6 record. He said also, side note in that league, Cooper Kupp and Dallas Goedert going down also hurt him pretty bad. That makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense.
Let's see. I feel like did I miss a segment? See, we added that new segment, so it's got me all thrown off. But no, we have our dudes and duds next, George. So typically, this is Coach's segment. Coach likes to read off this dudes and duds for this week's games. Still very important because this is the first round of the playoffs. So either you're in the playoffs and you need to set your lineups, or you're out of the playoffs and you're going to want to see what's happening anyway. I'm going to have George read the dudes. I'm going to read the duds. George, ready when you are.
All right, let's do this. Coaching my dudes for this week. We'll start with the quarterbacks. Justin Herbert playing at the Tennessee Titans. Herbert has been lights out since week 11, sitting at quarterback weeks 11 through 14. He's on fire, utilizing all of his weapons, and he's facing the Titans defense that is allowing 22 points per game to opposing quarterbacks. This is the matchup you were looking for. And not only has he been playing lights out, but he's just starting to get all his weapons back. Like Mike Williams came back this past week, put up over 100 yards on the Dolphins. So not only is he playing lights out, but he's getting his weapons back as well, which is important. Another one here, you got quarterback Andy Dalton versus the Atlanta Falcons. The Saints are 1 game behind the Falcons and 2.5 games behind the Buccaneers for the lead in the division, which this division is ugly as it is. It's still up for grabs. This whole division, everybody is still in this. The Saints are coming off a bye week, and they have everything to gain with a big win versus a division rival in the Falcons. This may be a bit of a reach, but if you have a tough decision to make at QB2 and Superflex, hopefully this gives you the courage to start Andy Dalton in what I believe is a strong matchup. And I am starting Andy Dalton in the Frankenstein because he's been pretty reliable, and for some reason, nobody wants to take him from me. So I'm getting by on it's like the Patrick Mahomes from Wish. You get Andy Dalton. He's not Patrick Mahomes, he doesn't have a name. And he's not putting up as many points as Pat Mahomes does, but he puts up enough to get you by. Here's a good one. Running back Isaiah Pacheco at the Houston Texans. And I'm also going to add in Jerick McKinnon at the Houston Texans. And if they play Ronald Jones, start Ronald Jones at the Texans. If you don't understand what I'm saying, start all your running backs at the Texans. Fantasy managers who drafted Pacheco late or picked him up post-draft were likely dreaming of having an opportunity to start him down the stretch. Well, that fantasy is now a reality. He is the RB1 in Kansas City and has a great matchup against the Texans defense that's allowing 27 points per game to opposing running backs. And that is why I said even Ronald Jones, you would probably want to start him if you knew for a fact he was getting an opportunity because the Texans are atrocious against the run. Next, you got running back Miles Sanders at the Chicago Bears. The Bears. Miles Sanders has been absolutely balling, and I owe him an apology. You dang right you do, Shep. Apologize to that man. Sorry, I am a Sanders guy. I had him way too low in my rankings this offseason, and through 14 weeks, he's RB8. Miles is coming off a monster week in which he will be facing a poor Bears rushing defense in a cold environment that is ideal for leaning on the rushing attack. And Miles Sanders also, I believe this past week, he went over 1,000 yards rushing, which is the first Philadelphia Eagles running back to rush for over 1,000 yards since LaShawn McCoy, I believe. So it's been a minute since I've had somebody run for 1,000 yards. Here's a name I've mentioned earlier in the show. He's back. Mike Williams at Tennessee. The Titans defense is allowing 34 points per game to opposing wide receivers, which is the most in the NFL. Ha! Miami disagrees. They own that one. Williams came back with a massive way last week, going for 6 and 116 and a touchdown against the Miami Dolphins. Time to hop on the surfboard and ride the wave. I like Mike Williams in this matchup. I really do. Wide receiver Christian Kirk versus the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys secondary is disarray right now behind Travion Diggs. Kelvin Joseph has not been reliable, and though Darren Bland has had big moments, he's still very inexperienced. Look for Kirk to win a lot of his matchups against whoever the Cowboys line up in the slot. Here's one I'm hoping does pay off, and probably will because he's going against the Cardinals. Tight end Greg Dulcich versus the Arizona Cardinals. Much like your running backs versus Houston and your wide receivers versus the Titans, start your tight ends against Arizona. Doesn't matter who they are. Hunter Henry had over 70 yards this past week. Titans, start your tight ends. Greg Dulcich versus Arizona. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a dull situation.
I don't know. I don't know what he's going for there.
So here, what's great about this? So I'm like perplexed at.
Oh wait, obviously, yeah. Instead of Dulcich, it's dull situation.
And he goes, I've won
Adultiation.
that for a few weeks now, have not gotten the opportunity. Well, Coach, I'm bad for you because you're not here right now, so you don't get the opportunity to say it again.
So I think he was trying to say dulciation. It's
Well,
not spelled that way. Yeah.
Yeah, Coach, come on, man. You're crushing me here. You're killing me, Smalls. This is the week Dulcich is going to get it done. The Broncos face Cardinals defense, allowing a league worst 15.5 points per game to opposing tight ends. Dulcich has 16 targets over the last 2 weeks, and I'm confident he'll be a big part of the Broncos' offensive game plan. And I would believe you if I actually believed that the Broncos had an offensive game plan. Maybe they will without Russell Wilson. We'll find out. Flex David Montgomery versus the Philadelphia Eagles. This is kind of full circle for me and the Toilets to Titles podcast. We had a huge ongoing debate about Monty and Miles Sanders throughout the first year of the show, and now both players are veterans and on my dudes list for the first week of the fantasy playoffs. Couldn't script it any better, and I agree. I really like David Montgomery this week against Philadelphia.
Yep, that comes full circle. That was one of the very first back and forth that Coach and I had. Let's see. Turns out I was very wrong about Miles Sanders, by the way, and he was and he was very right about David Montgomery. All right. So the duds. These are Coach's duds. These are not necessarily my duds. Just throwing that out there just in case. Throw the hate mail at Coach. So the first one we don't really have to go over. He kind of had a bad knee injury last night, and he's out for the season. That was Kyler Murray. But Coach does these in advance, especially when he knows he's going to miss the show. So probably just didn't have time to go back and take that one out. But I would assume we can just say Colt McCoy now. He's definitely going to be a dud against that Broncos defense. Let's see, Aaron Rodgers against the Rams. This is for those of you that play one quarterback leagues and haven't been able to get strong quarterbacks play at all this season. You've held on to Rodgers because he was likely better than what was available, and you would hope that he would produce like vintage Aaron Rodgers. It's time to stop hanging on and find somebody with a higher floor than Mr. Rodgers. Saquon Barkley against the Commanders. Saquon was so damn good throughout the first 10 weeks of the fantasy season, but he has been very unreliable since. Barkley is also battling a neck injury, and the Giants are watching the playoffs, the hopes and dreams slowly disappear. Keep your playoffs hopes alive and avoid Saquon outside of a flex play if you can. That's kind of big talk for those of us that have to listen to that have him. You know, he's still a top 10 running back, and Coach is telling you to bench him, so that's kind of scary.
So I ran into a situation in the Scott Fish Bowl this past week. Barely squeaked by into round 4, but I was debating benching Saquon all week for Jerick McKinnon. And I could not bring myself to do it. and Jerick McKinnon went out and put up 30-something points, and Saquon Barkley went up and put like 7 or 8. So this week, I am following coach's advice, and I am benching Saquon Barkley, and I will be starting Jerick McKinnon in his stead. So hopefully that move doesn't kick me out of the Scott Fish Bowl, but it very well might.
Well, I may not have much of a choice but to start Barkley. It looks like I've lost Jeff Wilson and Ramondre Stevenson this week to injury, so
Yep.
we got to wait and see if they're going to play or not. But I don't think I may not have a choice. Let's see. Next up is Travis Etienne against the Cowboys. Makes sense because it's anybody against the Cowboys. Etienne has not top 10 PPR fantasy points since week 9 of the NFL season. He seemed to have lost a step since getting banged up in week 12. The Cowboys' rush defense has been strong enough, and the boys will likely come out guns blazing after a close call with the Texans. Wide receiver Jalen Waddle, and I'm going to get your thoughts on this one because this also I literally messaged you during the game the other night, the Dolphins game, and asked, is it time to give up on Waddle? So I'm very interested to see what you have to say. Jalen Waddle is playing at Buffalo. It pains me deeply to put a guy on the duds list for the first week of the playoffs when I have him in 75% of my rosters. Waddle and Tua just are not seeing eye to eye right now, and that offense is pretty shaky outside of Tyreek Hill. What do you think of that one, George?
It's exactly what I had been saying at the beginning of the year, and nobody wanted to believe me, that Tyreek Hill is the clear wide receiver 1 in this offense. He's going to have Tua's ear. He's going to have Tua's eye. Tua is going to hyper-target him. Now, at the beginning of the year, both Waddle and Hill were able to feast. But as the year has gone on and more of Mike McDaniel's offense has been put on tape, the defenses have been allowed to adjust their scheme to take away these guys. Hill is still the first read on every play for the Dolphins. He just absolutely is. Waddle is the second read, and I'm not even sure there's a third read. Third read's probably throw it away because the line's got more holes in it right now than Swiss cheese. So just get rid of the ball so you don't get sacked. Live to fight another day. We seen it last night outside of one really big play. Well, it should have been 2 real big plays, if we're being honest. One was Tua threw the ball, and Tyreek just lost the ball in the lights, and they were just sailed right past him. That he was wide open. That should have been another 50-yard touchdown. Easy. One was Tyreek Hill picked up the ball on a fumble. It's the most weirdest fumble anybody has ever seen. Ran it 60 yards for a touchdown. And then there was the one play where the defender fell. Tyreek Hill was wide open. And even sitting back there, I could have hit him as wide open as he was.
Right.
So it's just one of these things where I hate to say it, I'm not relying on Jalen Waddle at Buffalo. We already talked about the weather. It's expected to be snowing. I don't know how much snow, but there is a front that is moving through, and they're talking 2-3 feet of snow. So it's going to be very cold. I'm not trusting Jalen Waddle this week. Not against the Bills.
Interesting. All right. How about this? Jalen Waddle at Buffalo, DJ Moore against Pittsburgh if he plays, George Pickens at Carolina, and let's say Westbrook Ikea against the Chargers.
I would.
2 of them.
I would hold off till later in the week if possible, because I want to see who the starting quarterback is for the Steelers. If it's going to be Kenny Pickett, I want to play George Pickens. If it's going to be the GOAT, Mitch Trubisky, I'm kind of leaning more targets going towards Deontay Johnson. It just, for some reason, Kenny Pickett has been targeting Pickens like nobody's business, and Deontay has been an afterthought. So
more Waddle and Westbrook.
I I would
So
probably
is
go.
he kind of in that line though, Waddle?
Yeah, he's in that line. I would think I would play. I think I would play DJ Moore, but ask us again on the blitz. You've got time to get some of the
Yeah.
situation figured out. Like if they
So
move, if the snow is too much and they because of this front that's coming off the lake there, it's a lake effect. If it's what it was last time, because last time remember they had to move a game for Buffalo. So if it looks like it's going to be another situation where they have to move the game, then I would absolutely go with Jalen Waddle. But it's just right now I want to see what the weather is like in Buffalo before I would say, yeah, go ahead and start him.
yeah, yep. And I don't know, Lori. I really don't know. And it's always right now at the playoffs too. But yep, they're always getting hurt, or at least that's the excuse evidently that I give because that's the one she hears. Christian Watson against the Rams is the next dud. Watson has been rewarding fantasy managers over his last 4 games, but prior to that, he was pretty abysmal. Watson will likely see a lot of Jalen Ramsey this week, and I don't feel confident starting him in the first week of fantasy playoffs. Evan Ingram against the Cowboys. Ingram is now tight end number 4 on the season after a monster outing in week 14. That being said, his track record states that he is just as close to producing a 5-point game as he is to producing a 15-point game. Now, throw in the fact Ingram is facing the Cowboys and their defense that is currently ranked first against tight ends this season. Ingram is not a safe play. His flex here are pretty much any Seahawks running back against the 49ers. No Seahawks rusher topped 9 carries or 25 yards in week 14. I don't know if Walker will be back, but even if so, I'm not starting him or any Seahawks back against the phenomenal 49ers rush defense. That's it for the dudes and the duds. I need to kind of get rolling here because we got to get the next show up and going. So I'm probably going to skip through most of this, but we have slow your roll, and you're all in on this one. The coach didn't put his in anyway. I think he kind of envisioned that we would probably run out of time. I'm going to get back to my slow your roll though, because I actually do have a decent one I want to talk about. Last week's prediction that I had down was that it was stupid. I'm not even going to talk about that. All right, so this week's prediction: Baker earns a starting spot for the future in LA and not just this season. So I'm all in. That's my all in too. I'm all in on the Baker Mayfield experience in LA. After the electrifying comeback on Thursday night against the Raiders, and we all know that story. I'm not going to go in detail here, but Mayfield will face the Packers, the Broncos, and the Chargers over the next 3 weeks. That may not initially sound like a good thing, but over the last 5 weeks, these 3 teams have all been in the their average over the last 5 weeks. All 3 of them are all in the bottom 8 teams when it comes to points given against quarterbacks. So he's got a decent schedule coming up for the next 3 weeks. He's got a real shot, in my opinion, of sealing up that starting position for the future. What do you think?
I don't think that's happening at all. Not if you look at the contract for Matt Stafford. 2023, $49.5 million in dead cap. He ain't going anywhere that year. 2024, $36 million in dead cap. He ain't going anywhere that year. Stafford's got $24 million in dead cap in 2025. Not cutting him then. There is a potential out after 2025, but it still carries a $12 million dead cap. I don't see them cutting him. I don't see them trading him because they'll have to eat all of that dead money. So Baker Mayfield is not going to be a long-term answer for the Rams at quarterback, unless he's willing to sign as a backup quarterback there for the next few years. But knowing Baker Mayfield, his ego, and just the way he carries himself and goes about himself, nope, he's not staying in LA, at least not on the Rams.
So do you have NFL Game Pass, able to go back and rewatch the games?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, remind me after the show, and I'll try to see if I can't find my password, and I'll let you have that so you can go check this out, because I want you to go back and watch the last 2 games of Matthew Stafford before he got injured. and I want you to see how him and McVay communicated. They were not communicating well. They were yelling at each other, and McVay was like, "What the hell did you see?" And then Stafford was coming off the field, and he was like, "I forgot it." Like he forgot the play. Like Stafford is not Stafford anymore, and McVay won't go for that crap. He ran Goff off after he had the opportunity because Goff started sucking. He wants a quarterback that can do what he wants done to his ability. He calls the plays. He's constantly on that headset anyway with the quarterback, looking at audibles, telling them what to do, and at 15 seconds that gets cut off. That's when Jared Goff started getting bad. He couldn't make changes on his own like that. He couldn't think like that quick enough to be able to read defenses and change them up. Right now, he just has a bunch of wide receivers that are really good that he can just throw it up to. But anyway, I, I digress. So he gets Jared Goff out there. He gets Matthew Stafford in. Everything looks great for his season. He wants his quarterback to be on the same page as him. And after seeing that excitement that he had on that field all throughout that game and all of what that quarterback was doing, at 15 seconds, he was able to make changes to that offense without even really knowing the offense. He knew exactly where he was going with the ball, and he went straight for it. And that's exactly the quarterback that McVay wants to see. And if Baker can have 3 good games, not saying win, but 3 good games where he can continue to improve McVay, I think that'll be enough.
We'll see.
Let's see. New segment for TGIF next year. Predictions of injuries based on Justin's draft. Very good. Very good. Very good. All right. All right. 47,000 out comedians out there, and she's got to be one of them.
Lori, I love it. We'll try to implement that.
All right. Guys, that's all we have for you. We really need to go off here so that you can stay tuned for Jared and Nino coming on talking their college talk, Debbie football talk. It's Tuesday night. They're actually talk IDP. Yeah, IDP is Tuesday nights. Yeah. So now that you have me recording on Fridays, also, I'm right before them on both shows. I get them mixed up every time.
Yep.
Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. We greatly appreciate you. Make sure that you go down into the comments section and drop us some comments and tell us how right or wrong we were about our games of the week, if you would. And maybe we'll mention it next week on the show as well. And I can't find the outro button, so what I'm going to do is I'm